I'm Mark Rhodes with New View Strategies. We originally presented this session at the User Group Summit North America 2020, and now we want to share our insights and experiences with you. Enjoy!
Welcome, everybody, to Community Summit 2020, a virtual conference. We're so happy to have you here today. Our session is Build a Cash Flow Forecast in 10 very easy steps. I'm Kim Dallefeld, and with me today is Cynthia Priebe. I've been doing NAV a little bit of time here, about 24 years. And, you know, I've worked as a partner, I've worked as an independent, I've worked for end users, and I just love this product. And I love to work with the user group, teaching people other things, learning from other people. Cynthia and I are always teaching each other something, so it's really fun. And I'm hoping today I share a little bit of something that maybe will help you use another feature of Business Central or NAV. Cynthia.
Hello, everybody. I'm Cynthia Priebe. And just like Kim, I've been using NAV and Business Central for a while, not quite as long as Kim, but since 2005. And I have a passion for learning and sharing. And I find that as we share, as Kim mentioned, we learn. So we're really excited to share with you today what we learned to be able to do this presentation today about cash flow forecasting.
Absolutely. And you know, it's really true that as we pick a topic to work on, we learn more about it. And even working with users like yourselves, we learn more because you ask questions and we go, how do we do that?
Exactly.
So, I know, right? Today, cash flow was something I'd set up maybe like once before, and I thought I've just not seen topics on this. So let's talk about doing that. And today I want you to kind of understand the difference between a cash flow forecast and a statement of cash flows. And we can thank Cynthia for me going over that piece of today because she was like, wait, what? There's two things here. So we'll get to that. We're going to talk about all the little pieces and components to build the cash flow, and really just we're going to do that as in steps. There's 10 easy steps, and we'll take you through it. So without further ado, let's look at statements and forecasts. And again, Cynthia said, hey, there's already a statement of cash flows. Why are you doing a cash flow forecast presentation? Where are we going with this? So I said, well, that's a good point. The statement of cash flows, and typically there's one in Cronus, right? And it uses the account schedule and columns, but it's telling us what's kind of already done. And it's showing us where we used our money, where our money came from, et cetera, and how we got to the cash balance we have today. Whereas the cash flow forecast report is predicting where we're going to go. Notice up here in my circle that it's still using the account schedule and columns, right? Which is, so we're really using the same thing to build the reporting that we want. So when we compare those reports, again, it's actual versus expected, right? It's really two different sides of the coin, before and after, I guess, right?
Well, so, exactly, yeah.
And I think that was just a really good point, and I'm so glad that Cynthia said, hey, tell me where we're trying to go and what the difference is. I did want to point out one thing, because when I was looking at it from this aspect, when we look at an account schedule, which we're used to doing for balance sheets and income statements and things, I honestly had never really looked down to the bottom here of the type and saw the cash flow. And then I thought, wow, there's the cost types, right, for the cost accounting subsystem. But they're just part of building any account schedule. So it's not going to be foreign to you. You can play with account schedules for cash flows.
Well, at least as far as the reporting goes. But again, I guess, I was confused because we've always had this cash flow report. But now we're talking about the forecast, and you talk about them not being the past, but the future. So how does that all work?
So you're really saying, how do we build a cash flow forecast?
Yes, I am saying that.
It's 10 easy steps. So we're going to take these one at a time. And by the end, we're going to have a lot of knowledge about how to do a cash flow forecast. So step one, I always think of step one on any subsystem is I got to go to setup. Well, I'm gonna stop you from doing that because I did that and then I had to back up and do my chart of accounts first. So, and it is not your general ledger chart of accounts, it's a cash flow chart of accounts. So let me do a quick little demo here to kind of show you what we have set up. Now I used Cronus and what was already in Cronus. And you can see there's really just about a dozen or so accounts here. You can expand upon this. You can have more. For what I wanted to do and what I wanted to show you today, it kept it simple, kept it easy, and I think you might want to expand upon it as you begin to use it. We'll look at a few of these. Here's receivables. The important things here really are the account type. And notice it's heading, total, beginning, and ending, just like in our general ledger chart of accounts. Entry kind of equates to posting between the two. I don't have any beginning and ending totals right now. I didn't find that I needed them. I am going to share a link later that's going to use some of those in its example, so you can take a look at that. But what's important also is source type, the GL integration, and GL account filter. And the source type here for receivables is receivables. Now that's a kind of a set source type. You're going to have just a few options to choose from. Here's payables. Liquid funds is actually pulling from the balance sheet. This is what I have in my cash account. And I'm telling it, get the balance out of these GL accounts. Kind of hid that behind that screen. But there are only certain source types that we can pick and attach to each GL account card.
It's kind of like account categories over on the chart of accounts side.
That's a nice relation. Yeah, I like that. And of course, here's a manual expense, some manual revenue. And what's really cool is now we can look at sales orders and purchase orders. And there's so much power here to go out and get things that are already in our system, right? I don't have to copy stuff and put it in Excel and try to run totals on it. I'm really pulling from things already happening in the system today. So now that we looked at that kind of as an overview, let's look at it just a little bit deeper. Again, just showing you the chart of accounts, maybe a little bit of expanded view from what you could see in the demo. Very simple. We've got really one chart of accounts for each major area. And again, as simple as you want, or you can get more detail later. I would start simple. That's me. I start simple, build on it. That's all the brain can handle. But really what you're doing here is you're defining where your money's going to come from, where your cash is going to come from, and where it's going to go to. When I talked about account type, I talked about source type, and GL integration, I only talked about really taking the balance of certain GL accounts, but I could also take the budget, which when I realized that, I was like, ooh, I could go out and kind of use the budget to help me forecast. That's kind of intriguing. So, and to think about that, I could do the budget for revenue accounts or expense accounts, not just cash. I was like, oh, well, that opens up a whole new realm of things for me.
Again, it's that future look that you're controlling with these different entries as compared to only being able to look at the GL entries of the historical activity. This is really powerful.
Yeah, the more I play with it, the more little things I find like that, and I'm going, oh, cool. So that's the account card in a nutshell. And now let's go to step 2. Now we're going to go back to setup, right? It's always good to have things done that setup's going to ask you for. And the main things here are the accounts, right? What is our receivables cash flow account card? Not what is our GL account number, We're not looking at that. We're going to actually look at receivables and payables. So filling these things out, and I will say this automatic update frequency is for the chart. There's a cash flow chart that you can show in your role center, and I'll show you one of those later on in the presentation. Those are the pieces that are the most crucial in your cash flow setup. In the future, you can take a look at some of these additional pieces, but we're keeping it simple for this presentation today. Oh,
Good thing, because
Cynthia,
we only have so much time.
I know, right? And I try to add to the bottom of at least one slide in the section, kind of where to go find it. And there may be other places, right? I use Tell Me, and then I ask for cash flow setup. So you'll see those hopefully not on every screen, but on a lot of them. So
Good to know.
and if I missed one, you'll have to tell me, Cynthia, and I'll update my
I'm not
slide.
going to point out any mistakes. We're focusing on the positive here.
All right,
Positive
let's
cash
do.
flow, positive, right?
There you go. I like that. Step 3. This is our forecast record itself. So we set our chart of accounts, we've done our setup, and now I can create a cash flow forecast record. Why a record? Well, I could have multiples. Maybe I have one that's for the whole year and I look at it without a budget. And then I have one that I say use this budget, and another one that uses maybe a different budget. So you can see here, I've got date ranges, I've got the budget. I want to talk a little bit about the cash flow payment terms and overdue cash flow, and then which one of these is going to be the one that shows in the role center. That little toggle is going to do that for me. So you're not limited to one cash flow, right? You can have multiples, which again, more power. And these
So,
are just
Kim,
control points.
that would allow me to create different scenarios then, right? I could have
Absolutely.
one with scenario A and another with scenario B. If I were going to launch a new product line that would impact my sales orders coming in, right? Or a
Right.
scenario when I don't, or a delayed launch.
Absolutely. And think about it where I just want to see, based on what I have in receivables and payables, what my cash flow is going to look like. I'm not looking at sales orders because those kind of come and go. I'm not looking at purchase. I just want to know what's on receivables today. Where am I going to be at the end of next week even, right? Because I know I've got some things happening. So yeah.
And I know you're going to talk about manual entry, so I don't want to steal your thunder, but that launch that I was talking about, you could address that because even though you don't have real sales orders yet, you can do some accounting for that. So again, different scenarios, different records.
Yes, exactly.
Excellent, excellent. I just had a thought how to use it. Go ahead.
I know, right? And there's so many things. So the cash flow, and I don't know if you've seen this before, and you probably have, and you thought, oh, we don't use this. But in a customer and a vendor, we do have these cash flow payment terms. And if you notice, yeah.
So I have a customer who has the terms of 14 days, but I know they pay in 30. That's just the way they pay. Well, I can reflect that actual versus expected versus reality by a different payment terms down here.
Exactly. And think to get more realistic in when I think my cash is going to come in or go out.
Wow.
And think about doing this for your big customers, right? Maybe not every customer in your or every vendor, but the ones that are really the high volume movers for you, and just affecting those. It could be huge on what that cash flow picture looks like.
But if I know that, let's say my terms are 14 days and the majority of my customers pay at 30 days, I could actually set 30 days as cash flow payment terms in my customer template.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So then I don't have to worry about it. I just make the assumption 30 days.
Yeah. And sometimes people always talk about being more conservative on what's coming in and more aggressive on what's going out. And that kind of covers you, right? That fits in that mold really well.
Excellent.
Okay. Step 4. Step 4 is probably the biggest area. It is our cash flow worksheet. It's like any other worksheet that we have on a requisition worksheet, and really even a batch that we're doing, a general journal batch, right? We're going to work in there and we're going to do things and delete things and add things, and that's kind of what a worksheet's doing. You can see over here in my little snippet of a screenshot some of the different options. I'm not going to cover those now because I'm going to show you a demo, and then we'll talk about each of these a little bit more. So let's move on to the demo. So here's our cash flow forecast card, which you've kind of already seen and we've talked about. And I simply click process, I get the worksheet, and I do process suggest lines. And there's my little screenshot with all the little toggle buttons. And I can have them turned on for everything or just some things, depending upon that scenario that we were talking about. What do I want to see here? I didn't have any disposals, so maybe I turn it off. I don't have any fixed asset budget, so I turn it off. Just turn on and off what you need or what you want in this particular cash flow that you're using to help, drive business decisions probably.
But Kim, if I don't use fixed assets and it's turned on, it doesn't matter, right?
That's true. Totally true.
Okay.
So, and once you click OK, you can see that the system brings in, and you've got the cash flow account on the right. It tells you the subsystem it came from, receivables or payables. You even have document numbers in here, so you could look them up and go back to them and take a look at, well, I thought that was a different date. Why is that got a 531? And even jobs comes in. I played with that also, and we'll talk about where some of these dates come from and how they get in there, and how you could potentially manipulate them. This is a worksheet, right? And as with any worksheet, I have the ability to do some edits. I won't be able to edit everything, but I can edit a lot. And what I found really interesting is I could change the amounts. Maybe I don't think that sale's really going to go through for 95,000. Maybe it's 90, maybe it's 50. So I can change those. I could change a payable. And so I'm just putting knowledge that I have that the system doesn't know about yet. And I don't want to go change the PO, and I don't want to change the sales order, but I just want to adjust a little bit here for purposes of running this cash flow. So you can do all of those things right here in the worksheet. So
now, real quick, Kim, when I'm using this worksheet, if I have a lot of entries, that could get confusing. Can I apply filters like I do in any other worksheet in the system?
You absolutely can. You absolutely can. And also, we'll talk some more about the cash flow date, because I think that's important as we get on through our demonstration here. So I play with this worksheet. Let's talk a little bit more about that. I want you to see how the suggest lines kind of tie to our cash flow account card, right? So we've been talking about our chart of accounts, and then we see all these things in this suggest lines. It's like, wait, how do I know what I'm picking? And if you notice just in the little screenshot, when we set up the liquid funds cash flow account, the source type was liquid funds. And remember, this was a selection I could pick. And the reason that is so then when I run suggest worksheet lines, I'm kind of connecting the dots there, right? Now I can have multiple liquid funds accounts in my chart of accounts, but this toggle would pick them all up, right? So something to keep in mind. When I run the worksheet just for liquid funds, and this is how I started, I'll be real honest with you. When I started this, I thought I'm going to pick liquid funds, and then I'm going to go to the next one and pick the next item and bring it in. I wanted to see what was happening each time. And so I'd recommend doing it, playing with it, so that you learn what each of those pieces is bringing in. So I could see, oh, it went out and got the 2 GL accounts that I had attached in my cash flow account. Pretty simple. So then I thought, okay, now let me try the next one, receivables. And then I could see, okay, it went out and got invoices from the customer ledger and brought those in for me. And my cash flow date is either my payment terms due date, or here's where that cash flow payment terms comes in, depending upon, now you've told the forecast record which to use, right? So I did this, and the same thing when you go to purchases or payable side, right? The sales orders also only have really the payment terms is all we see, but there are those cash flow payment terms, so it'll affect sales orders too.
So if I don't have cash flow payment terms defined on the customer record, it just uses the payment terms that we use for everything else. Is that correct?
It does default, yes.
Okay, excellent.
So I just kind of stepped down through these one at a time just so I could see what was going in. These are all of these little tiles here equate to all the toggle switches on the suggest lines, right? And you can add these one at a time into your worksheet. We'll talk about kind of the redoing of the worksheet a few times. You can choose them all at once, and eventually you're going to get down to where you really just, you know which ones you want for your worksheet, right? And you don't have to keep going back and forth. But while you're learning, I think it's a really good idea to take a look one at a time. Speaking of that and the dates, so just remember the receivable sales side and the purchase payable side have the ability to use either the payment terms or the cash flow payment terms. So it can be a really big deal for you. In the jobs piece, the planning line date came in for me, starting date came in for me. And of course, manual, which we haven't gotten to yet, and budget use based on what's entered, right? You have a date there.
So the date on the entry that it's using.
Correct.
Because it's the date you put on that entry. Okay.
Correct.
Got it.
And so basically, I just ran through this process. I ran it, reviewed it, I run it, which really deletes and rebuilds what's in the worksheet, review it, and just kind of keep going, right? Till I got the worksheet really the way I wanted it. And that really is step 4. It's the worksheet. Doing it, redoing it. Guys, we're almost halfway through. This is step 5. Yep. And step 5 is really my stop and think step. I know I've reviewed the worksheet, but maybe I should look at it one more time. Go get a cup of coffee, come back and go, okay, is this what I like, right? And maybe it's not. Maybe you forgot something. And for me, that was my step 6. Okay. Step 6 was manual entries. I forgot that I have a big annual payment coming up and I hadn't put it in. And how was the system going to know about it? Because I haven't gotten the bill yet, but I want it in the cash flow that I'm projecting right now, right? So,
or my example of I've got a new product line kicking off and I know that I'm going to have an influx of orders and here's my sales projection. I want to consider those in my cash flow, right?
Absolutely, and manual is the way to go. So we have manual expenses and we have manual revenues. So you can see it on both sides, right? And these, once you set them up, they're reusable. And I love the last bullet here. It's things the computer doesn't know, but you know, right? And we still have to remember that. Computer doesn't know everything. And I'll just show you a manual expense entry here. It's really pretty simple. You give it whatever description you want, and the starting date, amount. You can even do a reoccurrence, and mine's set up to do this every year for the next 2 years, which is great. I don't have to remember it next year because I'd forget again, believe me. And then I can rerun my cash flow worksheet, but this time I'm going to make sure I do my cash flow expenses, right? So this again, the worksheet, I work it, right? And I think initially the first few times you do it, you'll probably do this rinse and repeat more often than when you go. As you go forward, you're going to find that you go straight to it and you know what you want to pick and you don't spend quite as much time backtracking, right?
One of the things I noticed too was that the manual entries for the expenses and the revenue, they were actually two different toggles.
Oh, yep.
Yeah, so it can be as defined as that when you're working this. And I didn't notice that before. So I learned something else new today. Thank you.
Well, but that's true, right? And you were talking about the different scenarios. I don't want to include that new product line right
Mhm.
now. Maybe that'll get out next month, and maybe it's not going to hit till January, that kind of thing. So those, always thinking of those scenarios. So what we do in step 7 is register the entries. So it's really what we're talking about is taking our worksheet, right, and getting kind of getting that posted into cash flow ledger entries. If you remember way back in the beginning, we talked about the account schedule, and when we pulled them in, it said cash flow entry, right? And so that's what we pull from. We don't pull from the worksheet. But looking at our cash flow forecast record, before we do anything, our statistics look like this. It's all zeros, right? Now
Mhm.
let's look and see what happens when we register. And this is a quick demo to kind of walk you through that. So we're in the worksheet, we have our process, and I went, oh wait, what is show? Maybe it's going to show me like what it would look like after I register it. Well, it's not. It actually just opens up the particular line that you were on. I was like, well, that's nice. Not really
Yeah.
what I wanted. But anyway, so the next thing I'm going to do is actually click the register, which is kind of like posting if you think equate it to a journal, right? And it simply just takes all the entries from your worksheet and creates cash ledger entries for them and cash flow ledger entries. And so you can see those real quick. And sorry, my screen got sized a little wrong there, but let's look at those cash flow ledger entries.
Now these cash flow ledger entries are, like you said, they're posted. So I can't modify anything on these lines here. So this is not like budget entries, right? When I do GL budget entries, I can change things.
That is very,
These
very
are
true.
actually posted, right?
It is, because you've done that worksheet and you've done all this work, and you don't want to accidentally go change these, right? So you are correct there.
So I can change them while they're on the worksheet, but
No,
once I
You,
register them.
yes, change them in the worksheet. Don't change them here.
Got it. Thank you.
Yes, you're right. And then if we look back at our cash flow record, we now have statistics that have some numbers in it. And this is actually where I went, I forgot my cash flow manual expenses, right? So, and you may do that. You may get it all registered and then go, wait, what happened? Well, maybe I didn't do the toggle. Maybe I hadn't input them yet. And you're going to hit this when you get started. You're going to have to go back and forth a bit. But don't worry about it. That's part
Well,
of it, right?
and I can get to the detail from here because what color are those numbers?
They're all that little pretty teal color, and you drill on them and it takes you to the cash flow entries associated, right? So it's just, I'm so excited
Nice.
about this little subsystem. I do
Yeah.
have one tip for you though. If you register the worksheet, which is what we've been talking here in step 7, and then you go back to the worksheet and you suggest lines again, the cash flow ledger entries are deleted. So though I can't edit them, I can resuggest them, make changes there, and then re-register. And that process I can do over and over and over. So though it could be a little repetitive if I'm changing maybe a lot of numbers, I can't, it's still flexible
So there's
enough to allow me
no,
to do it.
like I do the liquid and I want to just add something else to it, I can't do that then, right?
No, I don't have an append or overwrite, and I would really like to put that in the ideas.
Ideas. Yeah. Maybe
Yes,
it's there already. We just need to vote on it.
we need to go vote. There we go, for sure. All right, let's move on to step 8. So step 8 was really about reviewing statistics. Because like I said, that's where I found I didn't have my $50,000 expense that I knew was coming. So once you register, I would suggest don't just start running your report. Slow down, take a look at your statistics, drill on these a little bit, see if it's even reasonable, right? It may be so far out of whack and you realize you've forgotten to add like I did. And really, that was just step 8. Just calmly kind of look through this. This is different now. In the worksheet, we just have all these lines, but here we have them subtotaled, and we can see what our funds are going to be at the end. And hopefully, that's not a big negative. Or I'm thinking, oh, how am I going to? Where's some money going to come from?
Right.
Step 9 is my is next. And this is one of my favorites, actually. Come on, little clicker. It's what I call the date review. And the first thing I did when I was doing mine is I found this nice little cash flow date report. And I was like, oh, that's cool. I could do different date ranges. This was week by week. And but everything kind of set on that before line, right? And I was like, there's got to be more, right? I want more now.
Yeah,
Now I'm getting into it.
okay.
I want more.
This is okay, but
yeah, it's okay. But and then I found this cash flow by period.
Oh.
Now I can see what's happening, right? I mean, how powerful is this? And again, it's all drillable, Cynthia. Every one of those numbers is drillable except for that total. But I can see right there on April 27th. Now, guys, I started this cash flow a long time ago. I'm going to be negative. I mean, maybe I need to talk to some of the things I need to buy and move them a little bit, or, you know, go beat the sales guys over the head to get some sales coming in or something, right? So,
but I also I can view it by week, and I can view it as net change or balance. I mean, this is, and like you said, it's drillable. That other one was just like a black and white report.
It's like a lot of our reports, right?
Yeah. This is
I've always said NAV is NAV Business Central is stronger on the screen than it is on the printed report, and this is a prime example.
I agree.
So, and yeah, honestly, I could see some people stopping right here, you know, and saying, this is what I need. I'm going to work with this, and I'm going to, you know, and maybe I'm going to go all the way back up to step 4, and I'm going to do some different things, right? But there is one final step, or step 10, because typically what you're looking for is that report, right? So, and this is my favorite slide of this presentation. He just makes me laugh. He makes me smile. Now, I hope he's not poisonous or something. He probably is because he's too pretty. But
somebody Google and find out and let us know.
But again, it's rinse and repeat till I get to this point. And now I'm really ready to, you know, go to my account schedule and get my cash flow cash report and cash flow forecast report. Did I say that right? I'm starting to get tongue-tied. And I can run this like with any account schedule, different column layouts, maybe even different, you know, account schedules where I have different rows. You know, sky's the limit when it comes to account schedules, right?
Could I do comparatives here?
Sure. I mean, if you can put the comparison in the row, which, you know, I always go to my handy little New strategies with all the date codes, right?
I have one too.
and you can put those comparisons in, sure, yeah. Now, I think that I should caution that, right? I need to have that data in my cash flow entries, right? Because I wouldn't be able to pull it to a comparison if I didn't have it. So that's a good point. That's a good point.
So again, try it and see what happens.
Exactly.
And we're using account schedules, so as long as we know how to use account schedules, we just have to pick the right type of entry in our column, right?
Right.
Or our row, I'm sorry.
And last but not least, in the Role Center, there is the ability to have the cash flow forecast. And this is so enhanced in Business Central over what it was in Nav. I've got colors now to be able to see my different things. You remember way back there when we set the cash flow forecast record, there was one little toggle that said show in chart, and that's what I can only have one, and that's what shows here.
Is that for me, or is that for all users?
It's for all users that have the cash flow forecast. Yeah. So we're all looking at the same thing, I guess.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah, I guess it does. But I don't use charts a lot, but this I really like. And I think that, as an accountant or maybe the treasurer managing things would be really important. A really important things to have on my desktop. So, and then I just wanted to give everybody a recap. And Cynthia,
Yes.
we have this recap available, right?
Oh, we do. Actually, what you can do is normally I would put something in the chat, right? But can't really do that today. You can go ahead and email us. You'll see our emails at the end. Email us and let us know that you've seen the cash flow forecast presentation and that you would like a detailed copy of the 10-step method to your cash flow forecast, and we will absolutely get that emailed out to you.
Perfect. So I did this one little thing so that just as a quick recap, honestly, I think once you start using this, you're going to probably go to the forecast record and start the worksheet. So step one, you're going to review it, you're going to register it, and you're going to probably go look at that date by period, right? I mean, really, on an ongoing basis, day to day, you're just not going to need to do every step. Especially the first three, they're going to be kind of set up until you want a new scenario or a new forecast record. So I will tell you, I have a bonus for you, and that is this URL is a docs from Microsoft, and it has a whole nother little scenario. They took and they expanded the chart of accounts a bit, and I was like, oh, wow, I never thought of doing it that way. Guys, the sky's the limit here. You really have a lot of ability to try things. And that's what's cool is you're not going to hurt your general ledger. You're not making entries there. You're pulling data from other places. It's kind of a nice place to go play, right? And to really give me something of value. So I hope that you take away something from this and that you can take it back, and maybe you've tried it before and didn't really know how to get started or didn't know what it was doing, and maybe we gave you some little tips and tricks to try.
Well, I will tell you, working on this with you definitely gave me the confidence to go in here, because I really think some of the challenges when we go to docs.microsoft, sometimes we're getting there and we're seeing the snippets of information about the different records, but maybe we're not getting them in an order that makes sense. And even if we read those steps, like you said, I think when somebody like you explains it, it's so much easier to dive in. It gives me the confidence to go try it myself. And I think the other point I'd like to make is that, like you said, we're not affecting real entries. We're not affecting our general ledger. We're not changing our budgets. We are working in a completely different area. So that takes a little bit of the fear out, I think, to go ahead and try this. And you can always compare it to the cash flow report, which is the historical one, and see the difference that you can make with these different scenarios and give something of greater value to your management team than just a historic report, because we don't put data in the system just for the hell of putting data in the system. We do it because we want to be able to work with it. Sometimes it's because we need to cut a check, pretty straightforward, but other times it's because we need that information to make strategic decisions. And this is a place, not Power BI, right in Business Central, that we can use to build information to make strategic decisions. This is amazing.
That's a very, very good point. I think too many times we're just slaves to the computer, getting the data in, and we're not taking advantage of some of the things the system has to offer to help us make those strategic decisions. That's a very good point. Absolutely.
Well, you're making it more possible. Thank you very much.
We did it. It was a joint effort here.
But we have something else we have to share.
We do. We do. It's almost the best part of the whole thing.
I know we should have told everybody about this in the beginning, so
Oh,
hopefully
we
you
needed to
stayed
make
with
you
us.
stay around and watch.
I know, but hopefully you made it to the end and you get this great surprise. First of all, again, here are our email addresses. So if you would like a more detailed 10-step guide, send us an email, either one of us, and we will absolutely get that off to you. As part of Community Summit, we ask that you complete your survey.
Please.
But the other thing we want to share, we've got two really good giveaways here. One is pretty simple, and we showed you the cubes. These are actually wonderful. They are foam and they are puzzle pieces that these are available on our store.
Take them apart.
Yes, we got to put them together in the first place.
I know. Yeah. And then I play with it all day long trying to get it back together. But anyway,
Well,
go
I
ahead.
made this really cool structure out of my two. So the blue is, we do have different ones for Business Central and for Nav. So you would just need to let us know. These are available on the store. However, we have a free version. And if you go to the store and look for and use the shortcut here or go to our store and look, we actually can send you something that you can print out, cut out, glue together, and make a paper version. And I have heard some people say the paper version is a little less frustrating than putting together the foam version if you're not good
Yeah,
with
it's a little bit of a challenge. If you just get irritated, sometimes you can just take it all apart and then sit there and calm yourself down by putting it back together.
that would be
Maybe.
the other way around for me. But really, really cool. First of all, I had to ask what it was, an Oculus Quest 2 VR 256 gig unit. It is a virtual reality unit. It comes out in the middle of October here, just for us in a few, I think in about a week. And it's really, really cool. I had to ask a millennial more about it. But if you are someone a little younger than us, or maybe Kim, you knew what this was, but
I did not. I did not.
but I would like one now that I've seen what it is. So
It'd be fun. Yeah.
yeah, it would. So the younger people knew what it was. Older people, you might need a little help understanding what it is, but I think it would be fun for everybody. So please use the QR code or text Summit 2020 to 31996. I feel like I'm on like the QV network
Yeah,
or
no,
something.
right.
But we're giving away one of those. We have 3 second prizes, which are the Bose Quiet Comfort headphones. And then for anyone, I've been told, who goes in and fills in the form, you will get the 4-port USB 3.0 hub. So pretty cool. We're all working from home. We're probably taxing our technology at home a little more than usual. So those hubs can come in handy.
Very good. Cynthia, thank you so much for helping. Thank you, everybody, for downloading and taking a look at our recording here today. I hope it was worth it. And if you want to see more, need more help, reach out to either one of us. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.